Good morning, welcome to Awakenings Within. I'm not awake. Welcome to Awakening. Yes. Awake.
You need a double. You need a double side.
Mugs up. I picked the right cup today, not a morning person. Oh my goodness. Good morning. How is everyone?
We're broadcasting from, live from grumpy Kansas City this morning. It's like you look outside and you go, okay, I'm going back to bed.
It was happy yesterday. Yesterday was fabulous.
I know.
Fabulous. I know.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some warm weather. It's just been all over the map so far in November. It's sort of like the weather is mimicking the mood, It's like,
oh my gosh.
One minute we've got cold and rainy and dark, and then the next day it's sunny and 70 degrees, and you're like, huh?
Yeah, I know. Hi, Randall. How are you this morning? Hi, Larry. Morning. He's just too happy. Okay, that's too happy. Larry, that was too many mornings. Like, that means you're too happy. So, Randall's saying hi to you now. No, he's not. He's being nice.
No, it's just that's I think the weather is mimicking the mood. So
it is. So mugs up, everyone. If you have a mug, if you have a coffee, if you have a
tea,
who knows, a gallon from 7-Eleven.
Ooh,
good morning, Heather. We missed you. She's here. Morning from bed. Yay. Great, thanks. I'm glad you guys are doing good. Good morning, Bill. Mugs up, Bill.
Yeah, it's nice to see all of you this morning.
Yeah, you guys are all chipper. No, Heather's in bed.
It might be grumpy outside, but when your friends check in and you can connect with everyone, that kind of brightens up the day,
It does. And the Chiefs won last night. And
but the Packers lost, so I'm sorry. I'm conflicted.
Don't be conflicted. Yesterday, oh my gosh. Mugs up. Hi, Roy. Thanks for stopping in. So that game was so good. Oh my gosh, that game was so good. I mean, I was sitting there. Yeah. I was talking on the phone at the same time, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And the other person on the other line was like, oh my gosh, she's lost her mind. Anyway.
Telling somebody early on in the game, this looks like going to be one of those games, whoever has the ball last wins, because it's like neither defense could stop each other. And I turned out to be correct in my prognostication, because we got the ball last. And man, Mahomes
no school.
Just razor sharp.
Why is there no school today? No school today. We got to sleep in. Yes, that was such an amazing in the last minute. Yeah. I was like, they have 1:28. Okay. They did it. They pulled it. Of course they did. Of course they did.
Well, it's almost like when the Chiefs put their mind to it, you just can't stop their offense. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, they just
20.
marched down the field so methodically. It was just, I mean, they scored like in less than 2 minutes. They just went like 70 yards. Boom.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, Thanksgiving break. That's right. It is Thanksgiving. Yes.
Wait a minute. You didn't say that with a great deal of enthusiasm.
No, I mean, yes, it's Thanksgiving week. I didn't.
Yeah.
All I
I
know.
know. Do you think speaking of that, it's going to be sort of a strange Thanksgiving, don't you think?
I think it is. Well, I don't know. Well, I can't say.
Ah, I know. I saw the
I'm
other
afraid
day.
that Big Brother will come and get me.
Well, I saw the other day where I don't know I think it was in New York where they pulled off a massive Jewish wedding.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, there was like thousands of people there and they pulled it off and the
Oh.
governor didn't know about it. And so they're,
Thank God.
So.
Because I'd have gotten in trouble. Why is Dr. Bob wearing a sweater?
Because I'm cold and it's cold outside.
Am I supposed to be calling you Dr. Bob?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness. All this time? Everybody, we have to call him Dr. Bob. We didn't know. We're sorry. We figured you had a doctorate, duh. Turkey time. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's an interesting week because usually Thanksgiving week it's sort of a strange, the first 3 days are always odd because everybody's sort of scrambling, either to get food or to get on an airplane or plan to get it, for their trip because they're going to drive somewhere, you know. So
yes, CDC is encouraging people.
Usually the first 3 days of the week, everybody's prepping for this big event on Thursday. Well, now we're sort of in this weird state where like, well, maybe we aren't really gonna be going anywhere.
I know. We'll see. The CDC says this, but I've seen that meme that says, well, only this many people can meet for Thanksgiving, but this many people can meet for a funeral. So we're going to have a funeral for
the turkey
Butterball.
Exactly.
Here are the arrangements.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, brother. So, yeah.
So the problem is, I was explaining this to somebody the other day that the way God made us is to be relational.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In other words, the reason we have family and we have extended family and we live in communities is because by nature we are relational.
We are.
Right? We're interactive.
I definitely am.
I mean, I think the science backs up the fact that we're healthier when we interact, right?
Yep.
Now we're in a situation where people in political power who believe, I got to give them some credit here because, I mean, from their perspective, they're looking at what they believe is the greater good, are trying to enforce rules that are antithetical or anti our nature.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a collision going on. There's a collision going on between who we are and who people are telling us we're supposed to be. And when that happens, you're always going to get rebellion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this, I mean, the other thing people have to remember, and I know my friends on the other side of the world don't always grasp this, but Americans are by nature rebellious. And I'm being generally,
what are you saying?
Very, very general in my statement, but we have to remember that our whole country was birthed in rebellion.
Yeah, those right. I read all the if you've ever done your own ancestry.
Yeah.
If you and that's why I'm so like intrigued by Ancestry is because I want to see why my family members came here from their original country. Why? Yeah. Usually it was for asylum, right? So it was really because they're escaping something. So most of them were escaping religious persecution most of the time. But some of them were just trying to come over because they heard that they could get some land here and that they could settle. So, like my German French branch came over in the 1800s, whereas my other branch, Scottish, Irish, English, came over in the 1600s.
Right.
They were on the ship. They were on the Susan Constant. So it's kind of like, I have some ancestors that just came right on in, and they were part of all that Jamestown and all that. So
I love history. So genealogy study for me was just, like it's exciting. The reason being is because it's history combined with something very personal, right? It's not just some sort of detached historical story. It's something that was relevant. So I found it fascinating, in the journeys of people in the 1800s to get here. It's fascinating. So on my side, the Scott side of the family, it's Irish. Right.
Oh, right.
And so what happened is that my great grandfather, who was James Scott, he came over with his parents, but both of them died, because what happened is the Irish came over on boats, but a lot of them went to Canada, and they were sequestered on an island there, because a lot of them came over with tuberculosis and different things like that. Well, anyways, both his parents died. Somebody adopted him, and he eventually just walked over from Canada and settled in Menominee, Wisconsin, which is up there by Green Bay in the north. And he was a lumberjack.
Oh,
so
wow.
The Scots were all northern Wisconsin lumbermen, but they just walked over the border. They're like, there wasn't immigration.
No.
You came over, you walked over.
Right.
You know? So but a lot of everybody was coming, trying to find a way out. They were trying to find something, but getting back to what I was getting at, but there's I've seen this often in a number of various situations with Americans, is if you tell them you can't, it's almost like a challenge, right? It's like, you can't do that. Okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. I've seen this over and over again. So one of the things that I find, it's not comical, because we're dealing with a life-threatening bug, right? But at the same time, whenever people in authority try to clamp down on Americans, it's sort of like they just go, okay, and half of us will all line up and go, yes, sir. And half of us are going to go, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do. Don't you dare tell me what to do.
I don't know which one
I'm going to do.
I'm not sure which one I fit into.
Yeah. Well, my kids, I have 3 kids, right? Yes. And a boy, a girl, and a boy. And I sort of have the whole enchilada in the 3 of them, because my oldest, if I were to draw a line, right, on the ground and put the kids on the other side of it and said, do not cross that line, my oldest would stare me in the face, walk over the line, cross his arms, and go, and what are you going to do about it?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So it's older.
Like, my daughter would go, yes, Daddy. And the minute I turned around to walk away, she'd hop over the line and then hop back before I could catch her.
Sneaky.
And my youngest, Michael, would be sitting there the whole time going, and so what's the point of crossing the line? Like, who cares?
See, what's funny?
I look at my kids and I go, yeah, they sort of typify the various American, attitudes. So yeah, so Thanksgiving's going to be a fascinating little,
it is,
expression of the pantheon of American attitudes towards things, right?
Not to call my oldest out, but my oldest, he would say, no, I'm not doing it, and then conform. I'm not sure why that is, but he's fallen into that arena. Whereas my younger one, which is actually the middle, because I have a stepson, but my younger one, he would be like, no, I'm not doing it, but if they have to pay him, he would. I don't know. I hope he's not listening. He's going to kill me for saying that. But then the youngest one, who is in the military, who I would have always thought would not go in the military, and he would, I always thought he would definitely, be rebellious, is totally conforming. So weird, right? Like like they surprised me as they've gotten older, I guess.
Right.
When they were younger, they had set type of personality and they followed the birth order kind of thing. Because even though my stepson wasn't mine, he still was the youngest, the baby.
Right.
So they still followed the birth order thing, and it's just really funny. And then the middle one, always was like everything wasn't fair. Like everything was not fair. It's just not fair. Life was not fair. Just like on the Brady Bunch. What's her face?
Well, there's a constant struggle in society, right? Because and it's a dynamic tension that we just have to live in constantly. Because on the one hand, in order to live in a community, right?
Yeah.
There's a conformity that's got to happen. You have to have rules and structure and processes, right? Because you're trying to manage a massive amount of people and try to get some unity, consistency, some harmony, right? So you have structure, right?
You can't.
At the same time, all the people who moved humanity forward, who were innovative, right? Who changed our thinking, all rebelled against it. And so that's one of the difficulties is that our personalities tend to be one or the other. And so if you're somebody who finds security in uniformity and conformity, rebellion scares the heck out of you, right? He's like, oh my God, they're breaking the rules. They're messing everything up, right?
Yeah.
And if you're that other person who's that sort of innovative, right? You're like, oh my God, if I have to stay in these rules, I'm going to suffocate. Like it feels like prison, right? And so how we react to the same thing, right? So very differently. And so I'm sort of watching what's going on in the country right now. And and everybody's focusing on it from a political point of view, but I kind of look at it from a sociology point of view and go, well, what did you think was going to happen? This is exactly what happens because people are different.
Yes. So I left Randall's comment up here.
Okay.
It's a difficult decision as to get vaccinated or not. Well, so it is a difficult decision because of all the different narratives. If you're looking, if you're looking at all the narratives on it, about it, don't know where it comes from. It's corrupt. It's not corrupt. There's this whole big, massive amount of information that is
they
untrue.
Certainly aren't helping themselves when we're discovering the fact that the test that even tells if you have it or not is grossly
60%,
inaccurate.
60%. Yeah, it happened in my little bubble. Like you're negative, but you're positive,
right?
Because your other person had it, so you just don't have enough of a viral load.
These experts again, right? These people that pontificate I don't know if they realize that they haven't really given us a whole lot of confidence that they
have not
about,
they haven't given.
So now they're telling everyone, well, you need to do this, and you're going, well, you guys couldn't even get the test right. It's like
right.
So I can understand people's reticence.
Well, there's a third in line now because I was listening to the news. Now there's a third one that come out. There was two: Moderna, Pfizer. Now AstraZeneca just came out with theirs.
Right.
And theirs is 70% accurate or 70% efficient, whatever. And the reason they say theirs is better is because it's of the cooling factor. Like the other two have to be like highly refrigerated, whereas theirs doesn't. So they could administer it quicker and easier. So I was like, ooh, so they're trying to come in on a different slant with 20% less results, but saying, hey, but it's easier to distribute. So is where the whole big pharma thing becomes this huge, oh my gosh.
And I think people, rightly so, they're just nervous. I mean, they've sort of lost confidence in the so-called experts, right? Because they've watched over the last 6 to 8 months this sort of vacillating.
You could take a soundbite
standard, all that. It just gets confusing, and so you're sort of paralyzed, right? In your thinking processes
Mhm.
because there's no consistency.
Yeah. Well, you could take a soundbite from the experts from way back that contradict what they're saying now. But they have to realize that it's because of the information that that person had at the time. So
Right.
so I hate it when they do that. And I might agree, disagree, whatever, but I hate it when they take a soundbite from someone from March and like compare it to what they're saying now, because it is different, because they have more information, they have more facts. Of course they change their mind. Of course they
Have you
change
noticed something that's
what
missing?
they're doing. Mm-hmm.
You know what's missing?
What's that?
The admission we were wrong. This is one of my pet peeves about these experts, right? Is
Yes.
they don't stop and go, well, given what we know now, our first assessment was wrong. Like no one will admit I
Well,
was wrong or we
I don't know.
miscalculated. I haven't heard and I'm sorry or we missed
Well,
it.
in the beginning, they did come from a good contrition place. They actually were like, we don't know. They actually did come out and go, we're assessing, we don't know, but this is how we're going to go forward. I mean, I feel like that they prepped us pretty well, like as far as we don't know. I kind of feel like they didn't say we know this is what it's going to do. They kind of said we don't know what this is going to do, so this is why we're going to lock everything down, because we don't know. So in that arena, I feel like that was good. But once we got to month 3, 4, that's when everybody started to get the uprising and the, what are we doing? What's happening? How come they don't know more data? And I think that's when we lost. And then they contradicted some things that they said. And that's when we all lost it. Once you lose confidence, that's it. I mean, and that's what's happened. Like you said, I mean, they lost it. I don't know how they're going to come back from it. So,
yeah.
And see, what Randall's saying is,
Well,
herd immunity is what they're after.
Well, see, what Randall's saying is the un-PC reality that no politician is going to admit to because of the fact that they'll get, but it is the scientific reality. So,
well, and the problem is science is not
and science, right?
Right. But see, this is what the problem is. Like you were saying about the testing, even the science isn't working. Like even the science part, which you're supposed to gauge things on, is not coming out the way they are saying it's supposed to, or 60%.
And it's also again, culture is unique, right? So if you stop and look at Sweden, Sweden admitted up front, way in the beginning of this, the whole herd immunity. That's their scientific community said way back in the beginning, this is what's going to happen, and people are going to die, and that's the reality of it, right? And the citizens of Sweden went on with their lives, realized that people were going to die, that we were fighting, a bug, and this is, how this thing worked out, right?
Yeah.
So they sort of dealt with the reality of it way in the beginning. Yeah. Here in the U.S., because of the fact we were in the middle of an election, it became political fodder, right?
Yes.
And suddenly every life mattered, and you know what I mean? And it's like this whole thing, slipped into this political thing and emotive, right? And
today,
you're a terrible person if you let anyone die. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so the science of it, right? Just
because nobody died of the flu in anybody else's administration. Nobody.
Yeah. So I watched it. So I found it fascinating because I was looking at how different cultures were responding to this thing happening, and the Swedes had an almost, now again, it for some people it would seem diabolical, you know what I mean? And because but if you're in the military, right, if you're a military person, I remember reading Omar Bradley's biography, and how he would spend all night trying to devise battle plans that would minimize loss of life. But the reality of it is he knew that every time we attacked or somebody attacked, people were going to die.
Right.
That is a reality. You know what I mean? And you have to live with that. You have to live with the fact that I, as a leader, right, am making decisions that's going to cost men their lives.
Yeah, true.
That's putting your big boy pants on. You know what I mean?
Here, there we go. He said, true, Dr. Bob. Now you're going to have to change your name on our thing. You're now Dr. Bob. Yeah. I mean, that many Americans died during the 1918 one. I mean,
so people see, this is what's so bizarre is that behind the scenes, right, out of the public view, the scientific community all understands what's going on, right? And so it's not like the science people in the scientific community in Sweden is different than the scientific community in America. Right. They all agree and understand the dynamics. It's just politics gets in the way.
Science is still the same. Yes. Yeah.
The science
and I said
what Randall's saying is true. Yeah. It's just nobody here is going to admit that.
No. So I like what Michael says too. And I'm not going to read it because you all can read it yourselves. Yeah. I usually read it for you, but I was like, that's kind of long.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Michael. And I said from the very beginning, because I've come from a medical background, epidemiology, virology, herd immunity is probably the best way. And I was like, when I found out there's a certain place I go that a bunch of people had gotten COVID, I was like, I'm going to go rub shoulders with them because I kind of want to get their herd immunity, Well, and a couple weeks ago, I wanted to get it along with my coworkers. To be honest, I was like, I just want to get it and get it over with. And I saw the psychology of this play out with somebody that had gotten it, that was so scared of it for a long time. But once they got it and now they were fine and they didn't get hospitalized or, anything. I can see that their whole personality is different. Like now they're not as anxious. Now they're not as fear driven about it. Do you know what I mean? Like it changed their mindset because now they realize, the reality of it is that they didn't, die from it. So their whole fear, the whole time fear-based was that they were going to die from it.
Right.
So it does something to your head. It's it's the psychology. It does something to all of that. And I'm mad about that.
Yeah. Dr. B can address that because he went through that early on as well. And
that's right. Dr. B did. Yes.
Yeah. So and he had told me, and he can make his comments here, but
please, Dr.
he
B.
said the biggest battle was my brain, my mind.
Yeah.
The biggest battle was the fact that there's so many things that were being said. And so you're battling in your mind more than you're battling in your body.
Yeah. You said that way at the time.
I remember, I don't know if you know who Frank Aber is, but he wrote a trilogy called Dune.
Yes, I know.
And one of the lines in the book is fear is the mind killer.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I think you and I know, from our experiences and people we've worked with that fear just paralyzes you.
It's horrible.
Right. And it's like your brain shuts off.
Yeah.
And suddenly what happens is this, this battle that we always have between these two sides of us, our rational mind and our emotive heart, right?
Right.
And suddenly there's this war going on, and you're like living in a state of constant conflict between fear, which is driving you to worst case scenarios, right?
Yeah. Well, your mind can, pull tricks on it. I mean, your mindset, it totally sets up, your whole emotion of the day. I mean, a mindset change in the morning, like this morning, I was like, I almost called you and said, hey, can we cancel today? Like
Mhm.
I almost did because of the way I was feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not a morning person. And then I was like, no, I had to change my mindset on that and go, no, no, no,
Right.
I have committed to this and blah, 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 it's a mindset thing. But I like what they're saying. Like Heather, that's why I kept her thing up here. She switched from the fear of dying to the fear of losing income. I know
Right.
people with small businesses have
Right.
really, really struggled. And at first they acted like the government acted like they were going to be your savior, right? That like, we're going to help you. We're going to do this. But then you had to jump through all those hoops and then you had to do this and you had to do that. So in the end, I'm not sure that they helped them very much. Look at how many places have closed down now.
Right.
It's really a sad affair. It just is. We always assume the worst. Media has hyped that healthy 20-year-olds are terrified. Yeah. Healthy 20-year-olds.
Well,
Exactly.
one of the things, fear, obviously, because it's such a powerful emotion, it's used by the political sector, it's used by the media sector to, manipulate people, So,
Yeah.
Hitler used fear, and
Oh,
his
yeah.
rise to power, right? It was
Oh,
the
yeah.
fear of the Jewish people,
Yes.
right? These
Yes.
people,
Yes.
right? So a
These
lot of times
people.
what
Yeah.
you'll see fear, of a particular group or a particular way of thinking,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing it even in our political sector. If you let these people have their say, we're in trouble, right? So I
Yes.
see. The reason why this is to me it's an important subject is because I'm seeing it more and more being used to try to drive people to a particular way of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you've just got to pull yourself out and not get caught in the middle of this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's why you have to
I
know where you
know,
stand. You have to
I
be
know that
informed, though.
the great Jewish writer Paul, when he was writing to Timothy, he said, God's not given us a spirit of fear.
Fear, but
Right.
spirit of.
So one of the things I remind myself of is, wait a minute here. This fear that I'm feeling, God's not sending it.
Right. Right.
Right. So what's driving this? Yes. You know what I mean? And so, I tend to be somebody who deconstructs things to try to get to the bottom. Like where's this coming from?
Yeah. We have not been given a spirit of fear,
and
what's the scripture about? We're not warring against flesh
and blood.
No, we're not. It's in Ephesians. Ephesians 2.
Realize, we all have our own fears that come from our own, our own weaknesses, but we're in a season right now where fear is just being driven by media, by social media, by you know what I mean? This is the strength and weakness of the technology. What I was trying to write about in my book. The reality of it is because of technology, i.e., our cell phones in particular.
Yeah.
The amount of information that we're being exposed to is unparalleled. You're probably, this may sound like a gross exaggeration, but it's not. You're exposed to more information in one day than Abraham had in his whole lifetime.
That is crazy. That's yeah. Because they counted on letters. They did it through letters. They did it through correspondence on letters that were
Abraham, right?
Crazy. Yes.
I talk about this in my book, is that information was transferred in people's presence. You had to be with someone, and then information was transferred orally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, they discovered papyrus and they started writing. But then the only people that could read were the top 1%, read and write, right? That's why in the Bible, you see this phrase scribes, right?
Right.
And scribes are one of the few people that knew how to read and write, because most people in a society couldn't read or write.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're one of the problems that we have is we kind of think we're normal, but we don't realize that we actually are living in an abnormally compared to the rest of human history.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only reason their reading,
the
writing came about was from the Bible.
Of us has
by the way.
more knowledge than anybody in the ancient world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing, right?
Yes. It's amazing.
I posted this over the weekend, but it wasn't until the mid 1600s that we even knew there was a micro world, like there were little bugs.
Yeah.
Before 1670 or whatever it was, everybody thought that when bad things happened to people and they died, it was because of evil spirits.
Yeah. And they did a lot of that blood. They did a lot of that bloodletting. Like they would do the bloodletting to get the bad stuff out of you, because they didn't know how it worked. They just thought that if you drained it out, then it would go away.
And that's where the whole mythology around Dracula.
Yes.
Right. And garlic, because nobody knew in the Middle Ages that garlic was a natural antibiotic, right? And so they just knew that people who ate lots of garlic tended to be less sick and kept the vampires away, right? So people were like wearing garlic, not having any idea what it was doing, right? But Van Leeuwenhoek, who was I was talking about this with some friends, because what happened is this guy, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, he was a Dutch guy, right? And he made drapes, but he was trying to figure out what was the quality of the cloth he was buying. So he developed this way of shining glass so it could magnify. Right.
Okay.
And one day he put down one of his little magnifying glasses on the table, but he didn't realize that he had put it on top of some water. And he looked down and there was things swimming under the glass.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the first person to realize that there were little creatures you couldn't see. But here's the problem. Van Leeuwenhoek never told anyone how he made his lenses, right?
Yeah.
And he died. He took the secret to his grave. So it was another 100 years before anyone could see those little creatures again.
Oh, wow.
Right? Then it was 200 years before we figured out that penicillin could kill them.
Yes.
So, see, if you think about it, this is the 1900s, right? This is 100 years ago. So we have like thousands of years of human history, and only in the last 100 years have we figured this out, right? So we're living in an extraordinary time right now. I mean, the fact that we even are battling, I mean, if you think about this, we're battling a bug right now that we can't see with our eyes. That's extraordinary in human history.
Yeah. So Michael is blaming everything on your Packers fans.
Oh, is he? Well,
and it was Ephesians 6. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I was thinking 2:10,
but you know what I mean? It's an
extraordinary
time right now. It's just unbelievable.
It's
so
not
one
nice,
of the
Michael.
reasons bring this up is because of our technology, right? We're being exposed just constantly to information, which just wears on the soul.
It's too much. Yeah. The Black Plague was probably the worst pandemic.
So even when, if you're my age, I'm in my 60s, right? You grew up in a world where you tuned in at 5:30 to get the national news, right?
Yeah.
Or you got an evening paper or a morning paper, right?
Right.
That was it.
Yes.
Right? So your information was quarantined, based on or segmented, right?
Yeah.
Now, because of our cell phones, it follows us 24/7.
I know. I wish we could slow that down. I think about those times back in high school when I didn't have a cell phone,
right.
And all you listened to was your teacher. Your teacher was teaching you something out of a book that had been published since 1960 something, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't really update those very often either, by the way. And
but because we didn't have technology, we related in person.
Yeah.
See, what's
I miss those
really
times.
concerning me now is so much of our relational interaction is through a device. Like we relate through a screen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're doing that right
And
now.
human
Yes.
beings have to be touched,
Yeah.
right?
I
We
agree.
have to be in each other's presence. We are wired to
Yes.
connect,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Spiritually, soulishly,
Yes.
we're wired for that type of interaction.
We
And
are.
technology is actually trying to circumvent that, and it's not healthy.
No.
And so now
No.
we've got this bug that's accelerated this dynamic.
Yeah.
And so now we've become increasingly. So I think
I know.
for a lot of
I got to
people,
give Heather a
Thanksgiving this
half
year.
hug the other day. I got to give Heather a hug the other day.
Oh, that's nice.
So that was you take those things for granted. Funny. You
Well, I'm
do.
wondering
It's
this
like,
year maybe if Thanksgiving won't be special.
yeah.
And, sometimes we don't appreciate something until it's taken away from us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
the reason life matters is because of death. If there was
Yeah.
no death, life would have no value, right? So, wealth is only understood when you have poverty. So the reason we live in these dynamic tensions is it helps us understand value. What's value?
Yeah.
So I think, at least for me, you get together on Thanksgiving and you're like, wow, okay,
Wow.
I'm
Exactly.
grateful for this moment, right?
Yes.
I get to
Yes.
be interactive. I get to connect with other human beings. This is good for my soul,
Yeah.
I noticed
We
that when I was hanging out with my grandkids, it was the funniest thing because it's sometimes you just take it for granted. And because of this whole COVID thing, it's been, fairly limited. And, I was over there last week and it's just like I was driving home in my truck and I was like, wow, why do I feel so good right now? Like, why is my soul so
it's
uplifted?
energy. Yeah,
What's
it's energy.
anything they said? They're only, 11, 9, and 7, right? It wasn't like they said anything profound. It was just being together.
It's energy. I mean, there's an energy field kind of between you and another person, and you can actually feel that good energy, I think. And when you have physical contact like that, like even just a little hug, I think it's a lot. So yeah, Heather said she was a hugger. See, she was a hugger. I'm not a hugger. Right. So the other day, we did this little half hug thing and I was like, oh, that was nice. And she wants to get back to the long hugs. Me too. Now I'm like, oh.
Well, Jesus talked about the fact that we need to become like little children. And I've always been intrigued by that because, we're like, well, why would I want to become like a child again? Like, that we're all trying to be adults. But I think what he's inferring is being returned to a state of innocence.
Yeah.
Sometimes as we grow older and we experience some of the pain and tragedy of life, we sort of lose our innocence, right?
Yeah.
And we become wounded, angry. There's a lot of things that that happen to us, and we lose that. And so, what I realize in hanging out with my grandchildren is that they're innocent.
Yeah.
And when they love, it's so genuine.
Yes.
Right? There's no agenda to it.
No.
They're not old enough to have one.
Unconditional.
Right?
No
hidden motive.
Yeah.
Well,
when I turned 50, I decided that I needed to return to times of that. I erased some things. Right. So you can do that and you can act like a child. Right. Believe me, you can. But
was trying to get us to understand is get back to this place of innocence, So
but you need to connect. You connect here too. I mean,
you know what I mean? We're just there's so many peripheral things going on. And so I think, one of the good things about this holiday season is the reality of it is that, people are going to connect to those that they're the closest to, right?
Yes. And tonight on my show, I'm actually going to talk about the opposite, the people that get depressed at this time because they don't have anyone to connect with and they don't, so I'm going to address that, because depression comes at this time because of the loneliness factor of that. So it's kind of like, if you're connecting, you have people to connect with. Some people don't have anyone to connect with.
Right.
And that's the part. When I lived in Norfolk, which is got 4 huge military bases everywhere. So we used to make it a point to try to invite military members that didn't have family that in town, that they had to stay and they couldn't go home for leave or whatever. And we would invite them to our house for Thanksgiving, so that they had a place and somewhere to, connect. Exactly what you're talking about. They didn't know us, but we had a couple take us up on it. Like, hey, I know this person, bring them over. And that was a cool thing. We did that all the time. We, being military, everybody's just friends. Like, it's not your family. And it was really, really nice to have just people, other people's families, all come together. It was kind of a neat thing. We kind of made it a tradition to not have family, but have all friends. I know, like a Friendsgiving is what they were calling it, right? Yeah. Something like that. So have you ever done that, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
hey, good morning, Manny.
A lot of times, with things, I won't this year, obviously, but often on Thanksgiving, I like to go down, especially in the inner city where, you have the homeless and the people like you're talking about that are disenfranchised. They're not connected anywhere, and it's a nice time to be able to love on them a little bit. And, so, it's nice, if there's strays out there, and you can bring them into the fold. It's
exactly. Now, this is funny.
This year, we're again, because of technology, families are spread all over the United States. It used to be when we were rural America, you just drove down the road to your grandparents or family.
Yeah,
everybody lived in proximity. Now,
not anymore.
Technology, we're scattered. So
exactly.
I thought it was really nice of Zoom to take their 40-minute time limit off of their free video calls on Thanksgiving, right? Because
that's nice of them.
Yeah, because the reality of it is a lot of family people are going to connect.
They need to,
like what we're doing here. It's going to be a virtual Thanksgiving.
Exactly. So Randall said,
family, pockets across the United States all connecting. So you're going to see a lot of, hey,
exactly.
That table,
exciting. Yeah, I'm excited. So Randall says he's 17 in his mind, but then Heather says she's trying to find a grown man that doesn't act like a child. And then Manny comes on and goes, I'm just revisiting my inner child. So there's 3 different perspectives.
Well, Heather, there's a big difference.
Sorry, Heather.
Innocence and immaturity.
Sorry, Heather.
Yeah. So innocence is one thing, immaturity is the other. And
she's just trying to find a grown man. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, Manny, I'm glad for you, because some of us acted so serious for all those years that we were in our journeys, that we lost that innocence. We lost that playfulness, I guess you would say. I think it's like a playfulness. It's like and when I turned 50, I said, that's it. That's it. I want to have fun. I want to stop being so serious. I want to stop telling the other person in my life that they need to act this way, because it's not my job. It wasn't my job anymore. I had raised my kids. I was like, and then my kids are having a problem because, now their mom acts the same age as them, and they're having an issue with that. They're like, Mom, you used to be so serious and whatever, and now you're just like us. And I'm like, well, I was always just like you. Just saying, it's just I had to be serious. And I like what Manny says. He says, hey, Heather, childlike, not childish. Right. Childlike is just having fun. Just having fun. Heather, perhaps you just need to find a man that obeys like a child. Oh, my gosh. Michael, you are such a poke the bear.
He is.
You are such a poke the cheetah, poke the bear. He's just gonna do it.
I think for a lot of people, what happens is as you get into your 20s, society, whether it's your family or whatever, your church, people all tell you who you are, right?
Yeah.
They, society sort of tells you in order for you to get ahead, you have to be this, 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 and this. And I think what happens is for most human beings, there's a journey you go on between 20 and 50 where you're everyone else's human.
Yeah.
Right. And then one day you sort of wake up, and that's what we call a midlife crisis, right? And you realize, wait a minute, this isn't me. Like, what happened to me?
No. Yeah, right? I don't like me. So I don't like this person.
Call it the return to innocence. It's like you go backwards for a while and you sort of deconstruct your life to find out where's the little child in you, like who, and you realize there's a part of you that's been hidden inside you,
Yeah.
And so it's not that you become immature. It's just that you kind of return back to an authentic you, right?
Yes.
Because you realize, hey, there's whole parts of me.
Yeah. And if you don't know who you
hidden.
Yeah. But see, that's the problem, is because you've hidden you for so long, you don't at first know who you are anymore. So you have to go and seek that out and find that out. I had to do that, and that was interesting. She doesn't want him to obey. She wants one with the function without guidance. He says they are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Really, Michael? Where might you find one of them? Anyway. Heather wants to know.
Like starting a dating service counseling.
Hey, I have an idea on that already. So anyway, yeah. So not a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, and it's hard being single at this time of life. Lord Jesus. Mm. If you're single at this time in life, oh my. The rules have changed because of technology. Exactly what you're talking about. Technology has changed the game.
Yeah.
And it's changed it to the worst. Mm. Like, I'm not saying it's changed it to the better in any way at all, because, people can misrepresent themselves on technology, and they use technology to pretty much vilify you / it's just not a good exchange anymore. Like used to be, if a guy wanted to cancel your date, he would call you and say, I'm sorry, I'm canceling our date. Now they just don't answer. They just block the person on the phone. They ghost them. I mean, it's nuts. It's like there's no decency anymore. It's like the dating rules have been thrown out the door.
Really?
Like there's some guys that still have a good gentlemanly thing, but then there's other guys that do not. And they just they don't even, you text them, they don't answer, or, and I'm going to be honest. And I mean, I'm guilty. I mean, I ghosted a couple people too. So, but that's because that became, like, once I saw that was the pattern and what they were doing, I conformed to that pattern of dating at the same time also. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not fair. That's not good. That's not being a good person, So, I mean, dating right now really needs a renovation, because it's ridiculous. Yeah.
As you were saying, the downside of technology is we've entered into a world of facades.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're viewing each other through a screen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very flat. It has no dimension to it, no depth. Right.
Yes. No depth.
So you can very easily get people who create, an image of themselves that's far from true. And so that's the problem.
It's scary.
That's the downside of technology, where in the old days you actually had to be in someone's presence, right? And you interact. It's interesting, how dating is like in my parents' generation. what ended up, it's been fascinating kind of studying their world, because a lot of it was centered around church or whatever, and events, dances, like it was a
Yeah.
big thing. My mom and dad grew up in Chicago, and so in the 40s it was all about big
Dancing, the
band
big
dancing,
band.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's the
almost
big band era. How
everyone
nice. I
met
wish.
through social events.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't this one-on-one. In fact, it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized that my dad actually dated my aunt first.
Oh.
Right? Like
Uh-oh.
my dad ended up taking my aunt out, and they just didn't get along. So then she introduced him to my mom, her younger sister, right? So everything was, it was group events
Mm-hmm.
where
Yep.
people interacted, and that's
Yep.
how you met. There wasn't
Right.
this, you just didn't, find somebody's image on a screen and go, oh,
I went to an outside like band
mixer.
event about a month or so ago, and it was hilarious because I sat there. I had my own little chair. I was in the back, and everybody was up front. And there's all these guys walking around, looking around, and their profiles I saw on Bumble. Like every single one of them, I was like, oh, I remember him on Bumble. Oh, I remember him on Bumble. I was sitting there going, and they'll smile at you like, hey, I know you, and it's because they've seen your profile on Bumble. Like they're like, oh, I know her. I think. Did I date her? Did I not? I don't know. How do I know her? And there's the other dilemma. You're like, and I just sat back and laughed because they were like, hi, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
I already swiped left on you. Keep walking. I'm the worst, right?
Yeah.
Like they seem all nice and stuff, but yeah.
No, it's just again, because of my
She's
sociology
waiting for Boaz
background,
to
I'm
knock on the door.
fascinated, by the whole social interaction and culture, because I tend to be very independent, and
Yeah.
I'm not a very good relational person. I get lost in my head,
Well, Heather's waiting for Boaz to knock on the door.
Okay.
Her and I have talked about. I don't know how that's going to happen.
Okay.
Now, unless they accidentally go to the wrong house or something, and
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I always say
it's just interesting how things
Ew.
have shifted, away from this sort of community, like we're, like these big social events, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I see, and again, I'm processing this as we talk, but it's like technology has taken us away from groupness to individualness. You see, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
It's like everything was centered around the dancing, the event. You know what I mean? It's like you came together to interact with groups.
Right. You can't tell if a guy can dance on the profile.
Yeah.
What if he's a terrible dancer? Oh gosh, no.
You got to meet each other by watching people socially interact in large groups, right? Now it's like we're all isolated, and you're a profile, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just I'm looking at it going, wow, that just it's so much pressure.
It is.
In other words, in a group situation, and you're all there for the group, and and you meet somebody, you dance together, and then you're talking, right? It just diffuses everything. Now it's just like everything's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like tunnel vision. Everything's focused in this very intense, and I'm like, wow, I don't know if I could do that. You know?
Well, like Heather said, with all things, with God, all things are possible. I agree with you, Heather. I was just kidding, because I hope her Boaz knocks on her door, and I hope that God sends him. And that's what I said. I said, God better send a guy, and it better have blinking lights and arrows. Like I want the arrows and the blinking lights to go. That's the one, right?
Now, I got to confess, one of the things that makes me nervous, though. You know why that makes me nervous?
Why?
It just feels like so much pressure.
It will, here's the thing.
I don't want to be somebody's savior, somebody's deliverer. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I don't think Boaz was
in other words, sometimes
he kind of was, yeah.
What?
Randall's a chick magnet, by the way.
Yeah. No, but you understand what I'm getting at. It's like sometimes because of the fact that we have all these expectations that this relationship is going to meet all these needs that I have, we put so much it's like trying to drive a 10-ton truck over a 1-ton bridge.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I have 10 tons of expectations of how you're going to meet my needs, and we have a 1-ton relationship here. No wonder they collapse.
Yeah. Oh, so Heather, she's told me this before. She gave God a password for her Boaz. I needed to be that clear, meaning that he's going to walk up to her and say this password.
I see.
And I'm like, oh, that's yeah. You don't want to be someone's Boaz.
Boaz.
Bob. Oh gosh.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I just think, one of the problems, and this is a whole discussion for another night, but it's like we put so much pressure on relationships. You know what I mean? It's just,
well, I think I think that, well, it depends on where you're at. Like where I'm at as a whole now, I'm not worried. I want somebody else who's a whole to be with. Like, I don't want to fill up their love tank. I want to have filled up my own love tank already. I want God to have filled up that love tank. I'm not looking for someone to save me or to fill it up. I want someone to be an addition, not a subtraction. I want them to be, with me on a journey and with me, like next to me, like, like we can share stuff, it has nothing to, like, for me, I don't need them to save me. I don't need them to save me emotionally, mentally, financially, well, all of those things.
From experience that the thing that breaks most relationships is unfulfilled expectations.
Yes.
So
it's a phrase. It's not necessarily word for word type thing. Oh, okay. They're talking about the Boaz thing.
Oh, yeah.
Godly man, not a loser dude who treats you like crap. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes.
Well, again, this is let's
and it's hard.
Our due date, our time here, but
because they're going to kick us off.
Conversation on the other side of Thanksgiving holiday, but one of the things we can talk about is what is love, because Hollywood has created a version of love where it's very self-centered.
And Disney has.
That person meets my needs. They make me happy. They fulfill me, right?
Disney is who killed it.
Version of love was completely the opposite. It was laying your life down. It was sacrificial. So we have two very different expectations of what our ideas of what love is. One is the Judeo-Christian version, and one is the Hollywood version, and there's a collision between those two. So that's a conversation we can have.
That is. Well, and if you guys are alone on Thanksgiving, I'm just gonna pray for you. If you're feeling a little bit down or whatever, I am having a show tonight talking about that, but I just pray for you. Everybody's, a phone call away. If you're feeling lonely and down, call somebody, connect with somebody. I'm sure somebody in your circle will want to hear from you on Thanksgiving and want to, talk with you. And hopefully that will help you get through that if you don't have anyone to spend it with. Because really, that's what's the problem, is you were talking about the expectations. Mm-hmm. People put expectations on these holidays that are just ridiculous. Yeah. I used to have a friend for Christmas. I mean, the presents from the Christmas tree to her door, it was ridiculous. Like she had so many presents for her kids. The expectation that she had set now for her kids was that they were going to get all these things. And so it became about the things, and so expectations can be so set wrong. And like for Thanksgiving, I think we've even lost some of what we even know what it's about, why we even celebrate it. I don't think even people know half the time now, but it is about connecting. And if you can get with your family or friends, you know, last year I spent it with Heather, so that was nice. And you know, that's
And savor the moment. In other words, be
yeah.
present for what is. Be thankful for what is, not what you wish it would be. Just be thankful for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like
You complete me,
eat the
ruined women.
moment,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Jerry Maguire, the you complete me thing. Yeah. It's funny. My relationship coach friends, two guys, both have mentioned that line being so not the truth.
Right.
All over the world. Yes. Bob's going to raise the standard higher to create depression. Oh my gosh.
Mikey.
I know he's brutal to you, Dr.
I
Bob.
know.
What are you gonna do? Oh my
Iron
goodness.
sharpens iron.
Exactly. That's what Heather and I say all the time. Iron sharpens iron. Well, thank you guys for joining us. So I hope you all have a wonderful holiday week, whatever that looks like, whatever you're doing. You know, it doesn't have to be about the turkey, like you said, about connecting. Connect with someone you haven't talked to, maybe connect with somebody you need to forgive. Huh. How about that? I don't know. Seems like a good idea.
There you go.
What do you think?
Just remember, Thanksgiving is about Thanksgiving. I mean,
exactly.
how simple can it be? What, so,
yeah, well,
thankful.
Be thankful.
Right?
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you all that come on here and interact, and I'm thankful for you, Bob.
Well,
I've said that
is mutual, dear.
Yes, it's so good, and I hope that we shed some awakenings within of light. You know what God wants to give you, what God wants to do in your life. You know, that's the purpose anyway. So,
Amen.
All right. Have a good week.
We will see you in a week.
All right. Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving
Show because we're going to all be fat and stuff with turkey.
Yes, I'm actually going to do that. Yes.
We'll see you in a week.
Okay. Bye. Bye, everyone.
All.
Thanks, guys.